Hey guys, it's Kaychak. So now we have had everything out from 9.2 for a little while, I want to talk about the thing I feel has made me the most gold so far in 9.2, and it is probably not what you think. So it's not the 30 million gold profit in 24 hours I made from the crafter's marks on that video, it's not legendary crafting, and it's not farming. The thing that I feel has made me the most gold in 9.2 has been investing and speculating on price changes and taking advantage of this. As usual, I'm going to go through and give you the most extreme example and then talk about this generally. I'll go through it all, and hopefully this is something you can take advantage of in the future to make millions of gold yourself. You can see here on the lead up to the new raid release, I purchased 4,267 prog essentia for 38 million gold, averaging 8,900 gold each. Less than a week after this, both the median and mean price of prog essentia would be close to 30,000 gold. Now, I did flip and sell a lot of these around this price, but I also put a lot of these into crafter's mark gear and legendaries. Now, the sales for these on my TSM come up as legendaries or crafter's marks, obviously, but the real profit came from the decision to make the investment in these early on. To me, I spent 38 million gold instead of what could have been over 120 million gold on prog essentia if I would have waited, so that decision effectively made me around 80 million extra gold profit. On the lead up to every patch, I always see loads of posts saying something along the lines of what should I be stockpiling to either buy to resell when we get an increase in demand, which is usually around a raid release. In the last couple of years, this has become harder and harder to make profit from this. Firstly, it was always a gamble. You are basically having a logical guess on what you think the price will do. For example, in 9.2, many guessed that all the ores and herbs that you can only get from the basic Shadowlands zones would increase in price as demand for these would go up when the patch released, but there would be less people farming them as everyone would be going for the new stuff in Zereth Mortis. Secondly, it's becoming harder because more and more people are doing this, so when you were doing these investments you never know how much other people on your server have stockpiled, so come patch day you could find the available quantity on the auction house jump by 200, 300 or even 400%, which would completely ruin any potential price hike. Now, there are multiple videos out there from other content creators saying about investing in prog essentia around the time I made my investments. Now, these videos did turn out to be right, but at the time I made my investments, I did think they were a bit risky, which is why I didn't put a video out myself. I was, however, making some suggestions on what I think you should be investing in. So I said shadow gas ingots would be an amazing investment for stockpiling, building up to the 9.2 release. If you've seen my make 50k an hour AFK video, you know that crafting and selling these on the auction house can be amazing profit most of the time, even without any price changes. If you also take into account that we're expecting prices of the ore to increase, which on some of the ores in 9.2 turned out to be quite dramatic, then this was only going to help push prices up. You also use a ridiculous amount of these shadow gas ingots. I stockpiled and crafted tens of thousands, but I've literally still been buying these off the auction house in the thousands at times, so someone somewhere has been making up loads of gold from me. The thing is, no matter how much logic you throw at this, the markets have a habit of simply not doing what you want them to. Here we see the Revendreth ore, a nice solid price rise just like we predicted. However, I thought all the basic Shadowlands ore prices would rise, and I was wrong, as we can see here. I also thought the same about the herbs that we are using in raid potions before 9.2. We have less supply as people would be herbing in Zereth Mortis and more demand as we have a new raid, so prices would increase, right? Well, Mara root went up very slightly, but barely a change to be honest. Now, before 9.2 released, I predicted Eleithium ore would actually drop in price as it was something that you'd be picking up around Zereth Mortis, and I didn't think dual crafting legendaries would really do that well if people could put legendaries on higher stat budget items easier. Now, how wrong was I? The graph shows the price being fairly stable, but in reality I saw the price for lithium increase by almost 100% on some high population servers. So as you can see, it's not as easy as you'd think, no matter how good you think your prediction skills are. If we are going to invest, we can however keep the risk as low as possible. So basically I put all these investments into 3 categories, and it's based on how much freedom you have with what you have bought and how high risk the investment is. I think by far the best way to do this is buying materials that you can use to craft yourself. You do not need the price to increase. If the price stays the same, you have broken even already and you are going to use the materials to craft, so you do not need to worry about the auction house cut to make a profit. If the price does really spike and you have excessive amounts, like me with the prog essentia, then you can still sell some for some profit if you like. Option 2 is you buying raw materials to resell. Unlike with materials that you can use to craft yourself, you need the price to increase by at least the auction house cut just to break even. As you've seen with the earlier example, even if you take a logical approach to this, it is difficult to predict and you've put yourself in a situation where you are relying on a price increase to break even. Option 3 is the worst choice in my opinion, and this is where people are buying up something that has been crafted in the hopes of a price increase. This is the one I would strongly suggest against. I see posts every patch where people have invested and ended up losing gold, and a lot of these are cases where they've bought up things like flasks and potions, and if the price doesn't do what they want to, then they are really in trouble. At least with raw materials, especially ones you can use for crafting, you have a bit more flexibility on what you can do with them, especially if things do not go the way you want them to. The only ever option I would suggest for you, and I would do myself, is option 1, as you are not relying on the price to increase. So I would only ever invest on materials to use for my own crafting to give you that extra flexibility, and if you do happen to have any left over, then you can always flip those. People will always showcase their successes, so just be careful on what you see out there. You can make great profits flipping materials between patches, but it comes with a lot of risk, a lot more risk than just pre-stockpiling cheap materials for your own crafting. The inspiration for this video came from a WoW Economy Reddit post where someone was going to buy up a load of legendaries from the auction house to flip. The logic behind this was that we have double legendaries coming on Wednesday, so surely we'll see a price increase, right? I could well be proven wrong come Wednesday, but I think that this would be an absolute disaster from what I've outlined in this video. Anyway, I hope this video gives you some sort of outline of how you could approach crafting and flipping when prices are low as we approach a new patch. Hopefully it will help prevent some of the mistakes that some people have made while trying to make a profit flipping between patches, and hopefully help you make some millions of gold pre-buying stuff in the future. Thanks for taking the time to watch, guys. If you can hit like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff really helps me out, and there's some more videos popping up on screen for you just now.